Morning, Gladiators. Today is Friday, April 30th. Today we'll be reading chapter 16 and taking notes. Then there is a chapter check for chapters 14 through 16. So make sure you use your notes, go back and review the events that occurred in your novel so that you can be successful on this comprehension check. And then we're going to review SIFT using the poem in The Miracle of Morning. So we can take a moment and we can read this poem, and then we're going to look for the items of SIFT because you will be writing a poem over the testing. I thought I'd awaken to a world in mourning, heavy clouds crowding a society storming. But there's something different on this golden morning, something magical in the sunlight, wide and warming. I see a dad with a stroller taking a jog across the street. A bright-eyed girl chases her dog. A grandma on a porch fingers her rosaries. She grins as her young neighbor brings her groceries. While we might feel small, separate, and all alone, our people have never been more closely tethered. The question isn't if we can weather this unknown, but how we will weather this unknown together. So on this meaningful morn, we mourn, let's grieve, and we mend like light. We can't be broken, even when we bend. As one, we will defeat both despair and disease. We stand with healthcare workers and all employees, with families and librarians, waiters, schools, artists, businesses, restaurants, and hospitals hit hardest. We ignite not in the light, but in lack thereof. For it is in loss that we truly learn to love. In this chaos, we will discover clarity. In suffering, we must find solidarity. For it's our grief that gives us our gratitude, shows us how to find hope if we ever lose it, to ensure that this ache wasn't endured in vain. Do not ignore the pain, give it purpose, use it. Read children's books, dance along to DJ music, know that this distance will make our hearts grow fonder. From these waves of woes, our world will emerge stronger. We observe how the burdens braved by humankind are also the moments that make us humans kind. Let each morning find us courageous, brought closer, heeding the light before the fight is over. When this ends, we'll smile sweetly, finally seeing, in testing times, we became the best of beings. So using this poem, The Miracle of a Morning, we will be reviewing SIFT. If you remember that the S in SIFT stands for symbols. Now they use clouds and storms, light, the morning, reading, dancing, and then negativity, woes, burdens. And so if you can find a line from the poem, what would the clouds and the storm represent? Imagery is when you use your senses so the reader can imagine what is being described. And so you would have to go back in the poem and look for anything that shows you what it looks like, what it smells like, what it feels like, and so forth. And so they do use sunlight and they used warming, and those are examples of imagery. And how does this appeal to your senses? Figurative language. Similes, metaphors, personification, alliteration is used quite often. Like light, we can't be broken even when we bend. And so this is comparing us to light. The metaphor, we stand with our healthcare heroes and all employees. And from these waves of woes, our world will emerge stronger, heeding the light before the fight is. And then if you notice that they use a lot of alliteration, which is the initial first sound, is being repeated. Here you can go back and you can find tone words. The first T in SIFT is for tone. Are they negative? Are they positive connotation? And what words evoke emotion? And the last one is the theme. What do you suppose the theme of the poet his message about life? It has to be universal and it can apply to almost anyone. And so we went back to the poem and we tried to find the theme of the poem. A lot of times we can find it in the last couple of lines. Heeding the light before the fight is over. When this ends, we'll smile sweetly, finally seeing in testing times we became the best of beings. And so maybe during difficult times is when we are challenged to do our best, to become better. So that would be a good theme. And so now you are going to use the conflict of the testing, and you are going to create a poem. It has to have a minimum of 15 lines. You have to address the conflict of the novel. It has to be in a unique point of view, so you take the conflict and you describe it, compare it in a different way. You have to have 3 figurative language, examples of figurative language, vivid vocabulary, and tone. And so you can use this brainstorming chart to find personification, to compare the conflict using metaphors and similes, or vivid vocabulary, and here's where you will write your poem based on the conflict of the testing. There is no discussion post today because the comprehension check took care of that. Oh yes, I'm sorry, there is a discussion post. For anything worth having, one must pay the price. What does this mean to you? And that's all I have for you today, Gladiators. I hope that you can go back and check your grades to turn in any missing assignments that you may not have finished. I know you have a wonderful weekend. See everybody on Monday.